Hello and welcome. We are going to get started here with the Pageant Success Workshop. This is a workshop that I have spent 3 evenings in the month of November pre-recording and sharing live via Zoom with a group of incredible, empowered women. And I'm excited to make this available here to you in case you weren't able to jump on during the live Zoom presentation. Now, unfortunately, there are a few things that you'll be missing out on, but I think that the content of the overall video you'll find helpful and a great resource over the course of the next few weeks while it's available to you. It will be available through the end of January 2024 for your personal viewing. And again, I'd just like to say that this is for your personal use only and not meant to be shared with a group. During our live workshop, I was able to offer some bonuses as well as some prizes. And while we won't be doing that here, we will still be going over some really great material that I think will really make a difference in your preparation for your next pageant competition and how you engage your next pageant competition once you're in the competitive environment. So if you're ready, here we go. We're going to move really fast. So in case you don't already know me, I'm Brianne Perriott-Gray. I'm a former Miss Washington America, former Miss Washington USA. I also had the privilege of being the 50th anniversary Miss Seattle Seafair for that wonderful Seafair Festival program in Seattle, Washington. I guide women through a process of growth and development, both personal and professional, primarily by teaching communication skills, interpersonal, public speaking, and presentation. I've been a pageant coach since 2004, and I've also served in leadership with the Miss Washington Scholarship Organization starting in 2007. And I've continued to serve in a variety of ways. One of my most favorite leadership roles, however, was serving as the teen director for the Miss Washington's Outstanding Teen Program. And in that program, I had 4 young women who were title holders under my leadership. And I have great memories of that experience. And it was so much fun for me to offer coaching not only to the entire class of contestants, but coaching one-on-one to those young women as they prepared for their national competition experience, which is one of the reasons that I'm still offering coaching and pageant resources to women today. Now, you hopped on here because you want more information, more success, more knowledge, more feedback, more opportunities, right? And so over the next 3 hours of workshop that we go through together, I'm going to help you take more away from your pageant experience while putting a mindset into play that will cause you to grow more personally and professionally, which means you will improve in one or more areas of life as a result of what you apply from our time together. This doesn't apply just to pageantry, obviously. This applies to our lives as well. So we will touch on communication. That's hour 1. Hour 2 will be presence. And our third hour together will be on mindset. So tonight, we begin with communication skills because it's foundational to everything you'll do as Miss Title Holder. It determines your ability to be seen as an authority, and it will set you apart. And I don't just mean it will set you apart in interview or during onstage question. I'm talking about communicating who you are naturally on your paperwork, as well as non-verbally in other phases of competition. And we'll get to that. Women who communicate well set themselves above. Now that's a note you might want to take. Women who communicate well set themselves above with a broad vocabulary that indicates they are intelligent and well-read. But their communication skills also serve to broaden their vision beyond the pageant because they know they can use these skills to pursue even greater opportunities beyond the competition and land them because they are dominant in their communication skills. So our core topic today is communication, and I'm going to teach you an interview technique that I learned from one of the greats, Mr. Don Baker. I was a Don Baker associate for a number of years and was contracted by Don to teach his material. We'll go to onstage question as well, community service and a strategy for how to set up your service initiative information so that it's easy to follow, easy to communicate in a short amount of time, and that also calls people to action. We'll talk about the paperwork, and of course, we'll talk about nonverbal communication, also known as body language, the use of your hands, your eyes, and your presence that radiates from you naturally. So I'm going to give you communication first because it's a seemingly simple process, especially this interview technique. But the difficulty can be in disciplining yourself to adhere to the process and use it every time. Now, the goal here is we are preparing you to show up uniquely as you in competition. There's no cookie cutter contestants that are being mass produced by working with Brianne, because we want to elevate your own unique flair, what you alone will bring to the job. Now, we can see that this year with Vanessa Munson, Miss Washington 2023, who is an active duty sergeant in the U.S. Army. Now, it goes without saying that in order to be a pageant title holder, you don't need to go out and enlist in the military to win. That would be trying to copy the current title holder, and we don't do that. We are turning the image of you into the image of Miss Title Holder, not the other way around. Drives me crazy when Miss America wins in a white gown. And so the next pageant season, everybody wants a white gown. No. There's no one else like you. And that is your superpower. So let's elevate it. Now, tonight, I'm going to provide you with a technique that will universally handle virtually any question. An interview, on stage, with the press, in a job interview. This technique will work every time, and it's effective at showcasing you because it's developed out of your personality, your unique experiences, your feelings. Once inside the interview room, what we are going to do requires we consider how the human mind works. And for our purposes, we are going to talk about the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind. So the conscious mind is an analytical part of the brain. It thinks, it memorizes, it knows that 2 + 2 is 4. And the subconscious mind is knowledge combined with feelings and life experiences. That's where those are housed in that subconscious. Here's another note to take. From your feelings come your unique inner qualities. From your feelings come your unique inner qualities: sincerity, sympathy, empathy, sense of humor, genuineness, compassion, passion, independence. All uniquely you comes from your feelings. In an academic setting, we rely heavily on the conscious mind for memorization, and the subconscious mind kicks in to support learning through visualization and mental pictures. Now, you can apply this to any area of your life. When you have something that you want to remember or study for as you pore over the material, don't just attempt to memorize it. Conscious mind. Allow your subconscious to join the party and attach mental pictures and feelings to the topic, right along with conjuring up any personal experiences you've had with the topic you're learning about. Now, when it comes time to test your knowledge, that information will come flying out on testing day because of the supporting effort of the subconscious mind. Your personal experience, your feelings will connect with the information and make it gel just that much more consistently. Now, I'll let you in on a little secret. The conscious mind has a tendency to forget when it stands alone. How many of you have crammed for a test only to find that the next day when under pressure, you cannot remember what you stayed up so late memorizing? Well, this is why. In the pageant environment, we don't allow the conscious mind to join the party. Sorry, we want the subconscious mind to captain our ship because we want to be emotionally driven. Now, that doesn't mean you won't sound intelligent. In fact, you'll be viewed as more intelligent because you will be more interesting reacting off of your feelings and your experiences as opposed to trying to recite something you've memorized that you are emotionally ambiguous about. You become more believable, more magnetic, more genuine when you are relating to a subject subconsciously. Now, as a judge, I can relate to you because of who you are and not just what you are telling me. You have a presence that is undeniable, believable, interesting. Why? Because you're talking about what you feel, not telling me what you think. Now, do you see the difference there? If you're telling me what you think, I can disagree. Well, I think something differently. But when you tell me how you feel, I can't argue with that. You've got me. You do feel how you feel, and I may feel differently, but they're your feelings. And as long as you have tight thought organization and good content backing up why you feel the way you do about something as a judge, I'm magnetized by you. I am so curious and interested to know more about your personal experiences and why you feel the way that you do about that topic. So don't tell me what you think. Instead, share with me how you feel. Now, how do we do that? Well, I'm about to show you now. I'm going to teach you the visualization process. I'm going to start by breaking this down and introduce one aspect of this technique at a time. So it might feel a little clunky at first, but I promise you with practice over time, it will feel like silk, smooth and easy if you're disciplined to stick to it unfailingly. Now, it does take practice. Stress-free key to being able to handle anything anyone ever asks you in an interview setting. This is it. So let's bring up a few topics. We're going to play a game, and this is where we will have an opportunity, typically during one-on-ones, for you and I to work together and role play. But since it's just me here today, you get to watch me run through this and see how it works. All right, here we go. First, we need a topic. For the sake of our visualization game today, our topic is going to be fur coats. All right. Next, once you have a topic, now we need to identify our mental picture. So when I say fur coats, what do you see? Something may come to your mind's eye, right? Now, as you have that mental picture, what do I feel about that mental picture? What is my emotional response? Then there should be some sort of a reaction, my eyes, my face. You'll be able to see how I'm feeling non-verbally based on facial cues. And finally, the words come. All right, so we'll go real slow with this. First, it's going to be the mental picture. What do I see? Second, how do I feel? And I'll use my feeling words to describe what I'm feeling. Third will come, why do I feel the way that I do? And that is where my thought organization and my content for my answer comes from, okay? So fur coat, well, I happen to have one hanging upstairs in my closet. So I will say that that's the first thing that comes to my mind's eye. However, the feelings that come with that, I love my fur coat. It was a gift that I won when I was Miss Washington from the Northwest Fur Breeders Association, and I'm very grateful for it. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever been gifted. I also recognize in my emotions that there's controversy around the topic of fur, and there's maybe some anger or animal rights issues that also come into play here. All right, so why do I feel the way I do? You know, I'm the recipient of a fur coat that was gifted to me, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's very warm. The product has lasted for many years, and I'm always pleased to wear it. But I do recognize that some people don't feel the same way that I do about wearing a fur, and for a number of reasons would argue that choosing fur may not be the most responsible choice based on concerns about animal cruelty and just having other options. But I will tell you that fur is 100% biodegradable, and that the animals that are raised for their pelts are raised in an environment that is monitored and regulated by state organizations for safety for the animals. And that there are many, many uses that we gain from using mink, not just for their pelts, but also for other aspects. And the process that I learned about when I was gifted my coat by the Northwest Fur Breeders Association took me through an entire understanding of how from the beginning of the life of a mink until the end of its life, all parts of that animal are utilized in some way, shape, or form, either for feed for other animals, or they're used in the mink harvesting process for the pelts, or then obviously they're also used for things like the oil that they produce, which is a great, also another byproduct. So I love my fur and I'm proud to wear it, but I do recognize that some people do not feel the same way that I do about that. And there we go. We have an answer to a question were one to have been posed. At least I am able to speak on the topic based on my mental picture, my emotional response, and my personal experiences. And that is what makes me unique. And that's really what the judges want to hear about. Now, if we turned that into a question, the question might be something like, hey, Brianne, if you were given a fur coat, would you wear it? Or would you hesitate, given the fact that we have other options today to wear synthetic fur as opposed to a real animal pelt? And so then I would simply react based off of my mental picture. You know, I am a proud owner of a fur coat. And so I certainly don't have any hesitation about wearing that. I do understand the process that goes through mink farming and harvesting pelts from mink. They're absolutely sanitary process, and I am certainly happy to wear such a beautiful coat proudly after that has been harvested and then that animal has been utilized to its fullest for other uses, including turning it into food for other animals and also using it for mink oil. And I'm quite pleased to wear my mink coat, even though I do recognize there are other options. Those other options do not biodegrade. And so someday when an owner chooses not to wear them any longer, they won't be able to biodegrade. They'll go into the dump and they'll be part of the waste that our society makes regularly. But with a fur pelt, that's a different story. It goes back to nature, so to speak. And there we go. We have the answer to our question. Now, of course, I'm a little out of practice. So I'm sure that that all will come together for you more and more. It will gel as you work through it time after time. And so what I like to encourage you to do is get a list of topics, things that are current, things that you've been asked in the past, things that you think you might be asked about, and just kind of start a list of topics. And then you can play this game with yourself or with a friend or a family member. You take the topic, it's given to you. You have a mental picture based off of what you see in your mind's eye related to that topic. That mental picture causes an emotional response. Now we use our feeling words. Describe what you see and how you feel, and then explain why you feel the way you do. That's the essence of the visualization game. And if you do it over and over again, practicing on different topics, you'll begin to find that instead of saying, well, I think, you'll naturally begin to explain what you see in your mind's eye. That's your sphere of knowledge. Your personal experience makes you uniquely you. You're not talking about what other people think. You're talking about what you see and what you feel about what you see. And then you describe for the judges why you feel the way you do. And now we're clear. And that's all we have to say. It also keeps us from rambling when we go straight to the point like that, describe the mental picture, describe our emotional response, and then we're out. We're done. All right, so let's see here, checking in my notes to see where we're headed next now that we've gone through the visualization game. I do want to say, even anytime we're asked a question, we always want to go head on to the question. So that's typically going to be saying yes or no, or use some sort of a qualifying statement like I did. Well, here's how I feel, but I understand that not everyone feels the same way that I do. Or saying, you know, I understand that there's a lot of controversy around this issue or around this topic. And so I just want to be sensitive to that. But I will tell you, I feel, and so that's then a qualifying statement, right? It kind of softens the blow before we actually get into how we really feel. And it also acknowledges, using the tools of diplomacy, this is how we would respond to that topic without alienating or offending anyone who may think or feel differently about that topic than we do. All right. So we don't ever shy away from what you see and why you feel the way you do. That is your unique content. And again, a judge can't argue with that. Use feeling words. And that's another thing I recommend for you to do on your own is sit down and just write a list of feeling words. I feel happy. I feel sad. I feel frustrated. I feel angry. I feel disappointed. I feel stunned. I feel excited. Write down a bunch of feeling words and practice assimilating those into your vocabulary during your mock interviews and when you're playing the game, the visualization game with friends or family, so that you can begin to work those into your natural way of speaking. And it's not so hard then to conjure those feeling words, because we get so used to using the word I think. All right. One thing to keep in mind is that judges will only remember 5 to 7% of the words you use, but they will retain 100% of how you made them feel. And how you make them feel will directly correlate to how much of your feelings you allow them to experience inside the interview room. Now, this technique that we've just worked on will keep you from rambling, because if you are done explaining your mental picture and how you feel, you're done. Hush. Anything more would be to start the conscious mind starting to try and jump in there with stuff that doesn't pertain to your personal experience. It's bringing up ancillary stuff because you're starting to think. So allow your emotions to drive your energy inside the interview room and during on-stage question. Obviously, we're not going to react the same way to a question about the state of the economy or war with the same type of energy as we would a question about a beloved hobby or our talent or an item of personal interest, which may give us a completely different energy as we talk about those things. Make sense? All right. If you're emotionally driven by the topics that come up during the course of interview, you should find the energy vibe in your interview and on-stage question should vary with elements of light and fun versus moments of great brevity. And that's where you show all facets of your personality and your maturity to handle any topic that comes your way. Now, what's the difference between a woman who uses this approach versus a woman who thinks her way through her interview? Well, when you're thinking, your eyes leave mine. They go up. You may start using some or and your voice may start to go sort of flat as you're trying to recall what you've memorized. There will be no emotion in your voice, and you may be stumbling to sort of catch up with, what was it? What did I memorize about this? What was I going to say about this topic? Trying to recall what you studied. And as a judge, you're losing me. You're no longer interesting. We've lost our synergy here. Does that make sense? Yeah. So let's shift this idea to on-stage question. All right. One thing we haven't talked about yet is listening skills. Okay. So I'll tell you a story quickly about myself when I was at Miss Washington competing for the first time. I lost my listening skills. They were not engaged. And so I'll share that story with you so you can see what the result of that was. So back in the day, we used to do on-stage question after we had finished our evening gown walk. And so I had been called into the top 8 that year. We didn't have enough contestants at Miss Washington to have a top 10. So we had top 8. And I think I was about the 4th contestant in the 8 who were called out. And so here we are backstage, we're all waiting in the top 8 to do our evening gown walk and then get our onstage question. And so when, the first gal goes out and evening gown walk, oh, we're all waiting, the music's playing. And then she gets her 2 questions. And I'm listening very closely to each one of these women's answers to their onstage questions, because I'm thinking in my mind, what would I have said? Could I answer that better? Oh, why could I answer that better? And so as each one goes, then you wait, evening gal walk, second gal goes out, she gets her 2 questions. So I'm listening to how she responds. Okay, yeah, I got this. Okay, next girl goes out. Okay, she walks on stage. 2 questions for evening gown. One was usually a current event, and then one was a platform related question, community service. So she answers hers. All right, so now it's my turn. So I go out, I step on the stage, and I'm in my moment. It's evening gown. I feel beautiful. And it's my first time in Miss Washington. I got this gown that I love, and the lights, and people are cheering and clapping. And I get over to the MC at the end of my evening gown walk, and I look over at her, and this is the closest I have ever been in my life to a former Miss America. Miss America Deborah Sue Moffett was our MC that year, and I just was so in awe. And we hadn't had any access to her prior to the competition. And here she is on stage as our MC asking our questions. And I have just come off of this evening gown walk, and now I look over at Miss America, and I'm just in it, in the moment, in awe completely. And I see her lips moving. She is asking my question, and I am so dazzled. I am not hearing a word she's saying. My listening skills went right out the window, lost my focus completely. And so, of course, I wouldn't ask her to repeat herself, because then that would seem like I wasn't listening, because I wasn't listening. And so somehow I find myself literally repeating something akin to what the gal who had just gone before me had actually said during her onstage question. I just sort of rephrased her answer slightly. So I'm sure it didn't make any sense to whatever the question was that had been asked of me. I recovered slightly and actually heard the second question, but still probably naturally knocked me right on out of the running for any placement within the top three. And it was incredibly embarrassing for me, and truly a learning experience. When you lose your focus, when you're not prepared above and beyond the competition, when you get so caught up in the moment, your listening skills just can be gone, and mine were. And so that was my no focus, no listening skills moment. So excellent communicators then, as a result, have very strong listening skills, because a major component of excellent communication is the ability to listen fully engaged, which I was not with Miss America Deborah Sue Moffett. I was fully engaged in awe and not fully engaged in listening. So when your listening skills are engaged, you're leaning in, you're nodding, your eyes are reacting. I know you're with me. This is conversational and dynamic. This is not a posture of waiting and thinking. No, 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 not in our conversations. This is a posture of listening with every fiber of your being, physically engaging with the person posing the question, including the MC. We're engaging with the MC. Now, this is because it's a conversation with the MC first. And so we can lean toward them and face them and answer them, but then bring in the audience. And then finally bring it back around as we wrap up to the MC. Again, it's conversational. What we don't want to do is we don't want to step away from the MC and address the audience only like we're about to give a speech. No, let's include the MC. They ask the question, we're going to talk with them, and then we'll talk with the audience and our judges, and then we'll come back to our MC to wrap it up in a very conversational manner. No speech here. Let's talk about length. Okay, on stage question is really no different than what happens inside the interview room. Truly, if you're a dynamic communicator using the technique that we've just learned, the visualization technique, you will not ramble. You will only react to the topic that's been presented. And because you were listening, you will be clear about exactly what you're being asked and only talk about that topic. We won't ramble. There will be a natural stopping point in your response. The same is true for interview and onstage question. Now, during onstage question, how many times have we seen pageant women not answer the question? Well, why? Well, maybe they lost focus, as I did. Maybe their listening skills were not engaged, or maybe they were only partially engaged and they started to listen to the first part of the question. They got that much, which was enough to get them thinking, and then our thinking took over instead of our feeling, and instead of feeling and listening our way all the way through that question, well, the overthinking takes over, and now on stage here we stand just treading water. Your tight thought organization and the content of your answer will be a result of concisely describing your mental picture, how you feel, and why you feel the way you do, and then be done. Mental picture, how you feel, and why you feel the way you do, and then be done. very concise. As you get to higher levels of competition, you might even have judges interrupt you if you're blathering on. I know I had that experience at Miss Washington and at my Miss America interview. So go ahead and time yourself. If you have a sense of what 30 seconds feels like, really for any interview question inside the interview room or on stage during on-stage question, you shouldn't be going longer than 30 seconds. We should be able to be concise enough and conversational enough that we know the judges are going to want to jump in with another question. And so we don't want to take too much time going on and on about this. We just want to show them that we know what we're talking about. We've had some experience with this, state our opinion and share some of our personal experience and our feelings. And then we'll go ahead and be ready to move on to the next topic, because the judges want to get to know all of you. And if we stay on responding to one question too long, well, gosh, now we've just limited their opportunity to ask us something else that would have taken the interview in a completely different direction. And the same is true for on-stage question. We don't need to be out there for an extended period of time making our case, as long as our thought organization is tight. That's why it's so important. Once you have a sense of what 20 to 30 seconds feels like, you should be able to get in, get out in that amount of time for on stage without any issue. Okay, so just practice a couple of times, a few times, have somebody time you or time yourself so that you know when you're at about 20 seconds, and then you know that you're wrapping up there in the next 10 seconds to be out within your 30-second time frame. All right, so here's a tip. When you're practicing on stage question, now typically this will be at rehearsal as you're getting ready for competition, but it may be at home or working with friends. Make the person that you're working with ask you actual questions. So a lot of times at rehearsal, we kind of fall out of practice and we just kind of get a little silly. You know, somebody will stand over there being the MC and they're like, so what's your color? You know, wait, no, we don't really have time for that. And this is where your leadership can really come into play. You can bring in 3x5 note cards with a list of topics on it, or you can text the person who's being the pretend MC a list of topics, and they can stand there with their phone and make up questions on the spot, but at least they're questions about actual things that are really going on in the world right now. And they could actually ask you some real questions so that we can get a little bit of practice in using the visualization game, and they won't even know that you're practicing on them. But it's, again, your opportunity to really be a leader in that moment and provide them with some tools that will only serve you in your preparation, as well as the preparation of those around you. So make sure that you're answering actual questions. Second, practice holding an object similar to a mic. This is kind of a skinny mic, but find something that's similar to a microphone. So you are actually holding something, because it's when you're holding something that the muscular response in our bodies, when we get nervous, we can see kind of what our funny little tics are that we do. And if we're not holding anything, then we don't have the opportunity to see what we might do when we get something in our hand. And so some people, you know, they move the microphone around a whole lot, or they're doing funny things, moving their hand up and down the microphone. Others, you know, they tilt their head one way, or they won't talk to the MC at all. They just talk to the audience. Some people move their hands around a lot, or as they're talking, holding that microphone, so jerking it around or bouncing it. Or some people do funny weight shifting things, or they talk with their lower body as well as their upper body. So it's just nice to have someone sort of observe you and then be able to give you some feedback on what you're doing with your body. I love to work on that one-on-one with contestants, so that we keep in mind that we're not going to be robotically smiling through the whole answer to our question. Again, we want to vibe with the natural energy based on the topic that we are responding to, and respond with the right emotional energy for the question that we've been asked. So on that note, I'm just wondering, how would you think that what we've just learned would affect your nerves? If you're feeling nervous, like, oh, backstage, waiting to on stage for on-stage question, always makes me, I'm always really nervous, always feel really nervous when I'm out there. Well, I would hope that based on what we've just talked about, I'll put my microphone aside here, your confidence should be soaring as a result of knowing that there's not one thing they can't ask you that you can't answer. Not one thing, because anything they ask you will be based on, your response will be based on your area of knowledge about that topic, based on your personal experiences with it and how you feel about those experiences. 100% based off your knowledge and experience. Now, there's no reason for you to ever drop your head in an interview and say, "Oh, I don't know very much about that." You don't have to say that, because you know exactly what you should know based off of your life experience to date. And we're going to get to this in our presence portion of our workshop. We're going to talk about how else we can communicate not having a lot of breadth of knowledge about a particular topic. But even if you don't have a lot of breadth about it, there should still be something, some awareness. There should be some trigger, even if it's abstract, that you can draw upon based off of the extent of your experience. And if you don't have anything, well, we could talk about how you would respond if you don't have any mental pictures or you just absolutely, positively do not know what that topic is or anything about it. And in that instance, again, there's a number of ways you can verbalize "I don't know" that still asserts your leadership. And we'll talk more about that as we go. All right, let's move on from competition into the community and public speaking. All right, building up our community service initiative. So I'm going to present to you now a strategy for communicating your service initiative and what it's all about clearly and concisely using a 3-step framework. Now, for any volunteerism or philanthropy you may be involved with, depending on the expectations of your pageant system, and this is important, come back to me now if you've been multitasking. Your philanthropy is largely your legacy. You will be remembered mostly for how you served, who you impacted, who you reached, what kind of a difference you made in the lives of others. And this is predominantly where and how you make a difference and elevate yourself above the crown. This is predominantly where you get to be a businesswoman and elevate yourself above the crown through your service, out there making connections and networking for your future, as well as serving others. Now, this is how we set this up, so you can talk about it anywhere, anytime, with anyone. And you can also pull out any part of this strategy during an interview or on-stage question about a specific area of your service. So we'll begin with number 1, the problem. Now, if you are involved with a service organization, that service organization exists because there's some sort of a problem that needs to be solved. If it's an animal shelter, if it's the Salvation Army, if it's volunteerism, if it's mine was Aging in America. So there's lots of different things out there that I know that you women are involved with. All of those entities, all of these service initiatives exist because you're trying to solve a problem. So we need to know upfront. Your listener, your audience, your judges need to know upfront, what's the problem? What's the problem that causes you to be involved with this service group? Okay, so in the first sentence or 2 of what it is that you're saying or writing, if this is an essay, I should know what it is, what that problem is. And you should probably be able to provide me with a couple of statistics to prove in your statement that this really is a problem, right? Okay, so show me some evidence. Show me it's a real problem. Now, if this is a real problem, there should be some negative impacts. And that's the second thing that we're going to talk about. Okay, so the problem, and then we're going to talk about the negative impacts. Now, usually about 3 examples is a nice number to be able to share with an audience if this is a public speaking event, or even in an essay if this is what you're writing for the judges. Where are people or the earth or the environment or animals or whatever your topic is, how are they impacted negatively by this problem? And I need about 3 examples of that to help me really understand and sort of dig under the surface of what this problem is. This is beyond the statistics now. This is about actual painful, unhappy, uncomfortable things that are happening as a result of this problem existing. All right. And then third, we want to wrap it up. What's the resolution? What's the resolution? How do we solve this problem? And so you're going to tell me A, B, and C. A, you're going to tell me what you're doing now to resolve this issue, right? So I've joined forces with XYZ service organization in my community. And then B, you're going to tell me how you're now going to take it to the next level. And we're prepared to share this across the state or take it to the governor's office, or there's legislation in place, or whatever the case may be. And then C, I want you to tell me how I can be involved. Call me to action. As a community, together we can, or if you're interested in serving and helping resolve and helping be a part of, then you can directly get involved with the chapter in your own community. So let me know, give me a call to action. So A, B, and C. First, it's what you're doing. Second, it's how you're going to take that then to the next level. So either we're taking this to Miss Washington, or we're taking this on to Miss America, or we're earning our first local title, and we're explaining how we're going to use this service initiative across our community. And then finally, I want you to resolve it by calling me to action so I can help be part of the solution. Your audience needs to know what they can do because we want to join your team. You've moved us so much with the way you've communicated this by telling me about the problem, the negative impacts, and how you're already hard at work. Now I'm ready to join you. So let me know how I can jump in and do that. All right. So I do want to say most titles offer their young woman 365 days. In 365 days, as one person, that's a heavy load to lift if you're doing it all alone. Therefore, I like to recommend that women get connected and linked up with other organizations that are already working on this problem so that you are then lending your voice and your microphone to further their work. This is so much for you ladies to try and take on by yourselves when you try and establish and start up your own platform for a service initiative in your communities. And so before you go that route, I would just implore you to see if anybody out there is already doing anything like this. If you choose to do it independently, more power to you. However, I just really think that somewhere in the nation, someone else may have experienced this problem and also begun philanthropic work. And again, it would just be to your benefit, so as not to exhaust yourself on this journey, to be able to link up with them and contribute to what they're already doing because they could use you. They could use you. Now, when we talk about the problem, the negative impacts, and the resolution, we never memorize it. We know it. We're emotionally bonded to the subject material because we've been serving alongside those in the trenches who are working on this problem. And so instead of memorizing, what do? We attach mental pictures and emotions to this information so we can speak on it effortlessly throughout our year because we're emotionally bonded to the subject matter. And as we have more experiences serving, we don't want some tired, outdated, memorized speech. We want to continue to weave those experiences into the story that we're telling about our service initiative. They will only serve to build the foundational mental pictures and emotional responses as we serve on a regular basis. And as title holders telling compelling stories so that others are moved to join us in our efforts, well, we have to allow these experiences to drive our passion for our volunteerism and then incorporate those stories into our philanthropy framework, problem, negative impacts, resolution, so that we can concisely articulate why it's a problem, how people are affected, and what we can do to fix it or help or support, and so on. So my platform when I was competing in the Miss America system was aging in America. Now, as one person, I can't stop the aging. I can't change the current social systems on a large scale for how we care for our elder population. but I could link up and advocate alongside entities, agencies, and legislative work that was already on the move in our state. And if you think in that way, and not just as one individual, but as seeking to link up with a greater team effort and lend your support to it, then your philanthropic efforts have merit and teeth, because most likely you will be able to accomplish more together. All right, let's move on from the service initiative to the paperwork, the eternal headache of every contestant, right? It's never good enough. It always needs another edit, another set of eyes, another opinion, another draft, right? Paperwork, oh my goodness. Well, here are just some tips and recommendations around paperwork. All right. So first of all, with regard to the content, it should be easy to follow and not wordy. Just because you have a certain length that you are allowed, if you can say it in fewer words, more concisely, with tight thought organization, I would prefer to read that over reading an essay that has been written simply to fill the page with so many words that now I'm tired. I'm mentally tired from having to sift through all of those words to try and find the true content, the true heart of what it is that you're trying to say. So be easy to follow and don't be too wordy. Be concise and to the point. Use feeling words to draw me in so that you retain my interest and my excitement about what it is that you're writing about. Now, for essays, especially related to the service initiative, follow the framework that I just gave you with the problem, the negative impact, and the resolution. And you can do that for anything that is service related. All right. We also call that the community service initiative speech. So if you have the opportunity to go and speak in front of a Rotary group or a Kiwanis group or some other service organization in your community and make a plea for volunteerism or for resources, funding to go toward your organization that you're serving with, you have your whole speech already prepared for you with the problem, the negative impacts, and the resolution. You just get up there and talk about it, and you'll be incredibly compelling and super interesting because you won't be memorized, you won't sound rehearsed or robotic, and you will be speaking from the heart about something that you're truly passionate about, and that will resonate. All right, let's see, with paperwork also, let's make sure that we check it with multiple people for grammar and misspellings. Check your word choice and see if there's anywhere, again, that it can be tightened up and use fewer words. With regard to your bio or your fact sheet, let's make sure that it's factual. I have worked with organizations and contestants within those organizations who just really feel a lot of pressure to make themselves sound really amazing on paper. And so as a result of that, they fall into this trap of thinking that they need to sort of embellish or enhance some of their fact sheet or their bio information. I would advise against that. The judges want to get to know you uniquely, and we want to make sure that when they ask you about something that's on your paperwork, that you're not in a sweat. Because it's only partially accurate. So let's make sure that our fact sheet is factual. All right. And then I do have a prompt for you. This is an exercise that you can do offline. All right. But sit down and write a little essay or make a video of yourself talking about, I am unique because. I am unique because. And sit down and just journal that out. And if you're struggling and you're like, well, I don't know, it's pretty much the same as everybody else. You're not, but I can't tell you that. But you know what? You might want to enlist the help of those around you that you're close to. And so maybe you could get them, ask them, what thing, and then videotape them. Videotape. Everything on our phones these other days. Videotape is an old term from back in my day. On your phone, you can video the things that your friends have to say about you, your style, your interests, why they think you're a great friend, and then keep this information, this little video or your journal notes handy as you complete your fact sheet. And as you write up your talent introduction, and as you fill out information that the program requests of you that will then be read by the MCs about you during your evening wear and during your fitness competition. Otherwise, when the time comes to turn that paperwork in, you're going to sit down at the last minute and try and fill it out, and you're going to be racking your brain for things to say. And what the judges really want is we want to know as much about you. Anytime you can give us information about you. Again, this is information about you that makes you unique and different and shows us exactly what you'll bring to the job of Miss Title Holder. Let's not put mundane information in there or share things that you already put on your fact sheet that I already read about you as a judge. When you come out for fitness, if you already told me that you're a dancer on your paperwork, during fitness, maybe you could tell me more about what kinds of dance you do, or maybe you've studied in 6 different styles of dance, or maybe you chose for your talent number to do this, but your favorite kind of dance is this. Find ways to share more about you with me every opportunity to tell me how you are unique and different so that I can get to know the most transparent version of you right up front. All right. So if you do need help, again, ask 3 people close to you to tell you how you're unique and different. And having that video, hang it up in your closet and listen to it every morning as you get ready. I just think it's great to have that kind of verbal support from those around you, reminding you that you are really unique and special. All right. Now, last one here, nonverbal communication. Now, in our next session, we're going to talk about presence. And a huge component of presence is nonverbal communication. You are nonverbally telegraphing to the audience and the judges who you are and how you will be as a title holder every time you step in front of them, nonverbally communicating with them. How you walk, how you carry yourself, your posture, your sense of confidence. If you like yourself externally, if you're comfortable with yourself, people will matriculate to you naturally if they sense you're relaxed. And tomorrow, in our next session, we will identify how to achieve that relaxed presence. Let's not forget about your eyes and your hands. When you step on stage and you're excited, you want to draw the audience to you, to engage with them. You bring a different warmth in your eyes and your body language because you've made it about them and not about you. Your focus is totally on them. This is often referred to as open and outward. Your eyes will light up with the energy and enthusiasm that you feel. As a final anecdote, I would just suggest that nonverbal communication is a lot like acting. So let's think about the movie Top Gun Maverick for a minute. He's at the top of that rise. He's in that jet. His butt's clenched and so's yours as you're watching him going up that steep incline, and he's about to pass out at the top, and you're about to pass out too. And then he makes it. Right? And but you can see in the nonverbal exactly what he's feeling, and you feel it too because you can see it in his eyes. Or think about the moment at the very end of the movie when Penny pulls up to the hangar and she just looks at him, and you know exactly what she's feeling because you can read it in her eyes. That's nonverbal communication. It's emotion rising into your eyes, your face, and your hands naturally. So I'll just leave you with Top Gun for today. Top Gun is a great movie, right? Am I right? All right. Great acting. Okay. So typically we'll hit on these areas more intensely with one-on-one. We do a lot more work on the visualization game, so it starts to feel less clunky and a little bit more smooth and silky. But today, during this session, it's been an overview at a speed that might feel a bit like drinking from a fire hose, but I know you've taken great notes and will be applying these techniques in your preparation and walking through the exercises that I recommended. And I can't wait to hear how you're noting improvement and ease in your communication skills, both within pageant and in other areas of daily life and routine. All right, so with that, we are going to wrap up our time together for this session. Again, this recording is meant for your personal use, and I do hope that you enjoy it and rewatch it as many times as you need to make sure that you've gotten just every bit of great information out of it that you needed for this session on communication. Join me on the next as we talk about presence.